companies will have to start telling the public about how climate change could hit their bottom lines, just not with as much detail as some had hoped. The Securities and Exchange Commission on Wednesday voted to approve new climate risk disclosure rules, a significant shift that will require many companies to include information about their emissions, along with the other material risks that U.S. businesses must detail to the public. The rules, some climate advocates say, were watered down after they faced scrutiny from some business leaders, but others say they could still mark a moment of awakening for investors to the financial risks of climate change. The new rules, which was approved by commissioners in a 3-2 vote, will require large public companies to disclose some aspects of their carbon footprints, and also lay out for investors how climate change could put aspects of their businesses at risk, in comparison to earlier draft versions of the rules. The finalized rules will require fewer businesses to comply and also won't require most indirect carbon emissions to be disclosed. Some large companies already voluntarily publish such information. The new rules could help reduce greenwashing, provide a common standard for disclosures, and force large companies to be more transparent, said Cynthia Hanawalt, the director of climate finance and regulation at Columbia University's Sabin Center for Climate Change Law. The rules add to an ongoing shift in how climate change is viewed in the business world. What was once considered an abstract question of science or a threat in the future is now acknowledged by the regulator and the broader business community. For some years, climate change was thought of as a moral and social issue, and it's really in the last decade that it's become clear how much economic impact and financial risk there is to climate change, Hanawalt said, adding that the rule is certainly a huge step forward in standardizing this information for investors and requiring a lot more transparency around the risks they're facing. The new rules were proposed in March 2022. They've been a lightning rod for the SEC, which said it received more than 24,000 comment letters to wade through before making a final decision. The final version of the rule was significantly weakened from the initial draft. It no longer requires businesses to disclose Scope 3 emissions, which describe indirect emissions like the greenhouse gases produced to acquire raw materials from a supplier or the emissions created during a product's end use. That means an automaker would not have to disclose the carbon cost of the steel it purchased from a contractor, nor the emissions a car could be expected to create during its lifetime of driving. The final version of the rule also limits which companies need to disclose their Scope 1 and 2 emissions, which describe the greenhouse gases produced directly by a company and those that are typically associated